Nari pressed her face against the cold window of the transport ship. Her breath made small circles of fog on the glass as she watched the massive space station grow larger and larger. Galactic Academy Station. Prometheus looked like a small moon floating in the darkness of space. Thousands of lights twinkled across its surface like stars. Her stomach twisted with nerves. This was it. Her new home for the next 4 years. Nari touched the small gills on the sides of her neck. They were barely visible under her hair, but she could feel them. Just like she could feel the webbing between her fingers that she kept hidden in her gloves. The doctors had done a good job with her modifications. She looked almost normal. Almost. "Attention passengers," the ship's computer announced. "We will dock at Station Prometheus in 10 minutes. Please gather your belongings." Nari picked up her single bag. Everything she owned fit inside it. Her parents had saved for years to send her here. The best school in the galaxy, they said. A chance for a better life. She hoped they were right. The docking process felt like it took forever. Nari watched through the window as the ship slowly moved into the station's giant docking bay. She could see other ships from different worlds. Some looked like the human ships she knew. Others were strange shapes she had never seen before. When the doors finally opened, Nari took a deep breath and stepped into her new world. The docking bay was huge. The ceiling stretched up so high she could barely see it. Beings from dozens of different worlds walked around her. She saw tall, thin creatures with blue skin, short, round aliens covered in fur. Some beings floated in the air without touching the ground. Nari had seen pictures of other species before, but seeing them in person was different. They moved differently. They smelled different. They made sounds she had never heard. A tall woman with kind eyes approached her. She wore the blue uniform of Academy staff. "You must be Nari," the woman said with a smile. "I'm Ms. Park. I'm here to help you get settled." Nari nodded, not trusting her voice. "Don't worry," Ms. Park said gently. "Everyone feels nervous on their first day. Even the aliens do." They walked through long corridors filled with students. Nari tried not to stare, but it was hard. She had never seen so many different types of beings in one place. Most seemed to be walking in groups with their own species. The humans stayed with humans. The blue-skinned aliens stayed together. The furry creatures formed their own groups. "The Academy has students from 47 different worlds," Ms. Park explained as they walked. "We have special areas for different needs. Water breathers like yourself have their own section. The silicon-based students need different air. The energy beings have their own space." Nari's heart sank a little. Water breathers, that's what they called her kind. Not human. Water breather. They took an elevator down several levels. When the doors opened, Nari could smell something familiar. Salt water. The corridor here looked different too. The walls had a blue-green tint and she could hear the gentle sound of water moving somewhere nearby. "This is the aquatic wing," Ms. Park said. "Your room is down this way." They passed several rooms with thick windows instead of regular doors. Through the glass, Nari could see rooms filled with water. Strange fish-like beings swam inside them. She realized these were the dormitories for the fully aquatic students. "Your room is a bit different," Ms. Park said, stopping at a normal-looking door. "Since you can breathe both air and water, you get a hybrid room." She opened the door and Nari gasped. It was beautiful. Half the room was normal, with a bed, desk, and closet. The other half was a pool of clear blue water that connected to a larger system through a tunnel in the wall. "Your roommate should be here soon," Ms. Park said. Heijin is human too, but she specifically requested to room in the aquatic wing. She's studying marine biology. After Ms. Park left, Nari sat on her bed and looked around. She had never had a room this nice. At home, she had shared a small space with her younger brother. Here she had her own bed, her own desk, and even her own pool. She heard voices in the corridor and quickly moved away from the window. She didn't want to seem like she was watching people. A few minutes later, the door opened and a girl with short black hair walked in. She had paint stains on her fingers and a friendly smile. "You must be Nari," the girl said. "I'm Hyojin. Sorry I'm late. I was helping a friend move his pet fish tank." It was heavier than it looked. Hyojin seemed nice. She didn't stare at Nari's gills or ask weird questions about her modifications. Instead, she talked about normal things like classes and food and which teachers were strict. "Are you hungry?" Hyojin asked. "The dining hall is amazing. They have food from every world you can imagine, though I should warn you, avoid the Zilithian crystals. They look pretty, but they taste like metal." As they walked to dinner, Nari felt a little better. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. The dining hall was enormous. Hundreds of students sat at long tables eating and talking. The noise was incredible. Nari heard languages she didn't recognize and saw beings eating things that didn't look like food at all. Hyejin led her to the food area. There were dozens of different sections: human food, alien food, liquid nutrition for the energy beings, and even a section for beings who ate light instead of matter. The human section is over there, Hyejin said, pointing to a familiar-looking area with normal food. As they got their food, Nari noticed a group of students watching her. They weren't human. Their skin looked like it was made of crystal, and their eyes glowed with their own light. One of them, taller than the others, pointed at her and said something to his friends. They all laughed. Nari quickly looked away and followed Hyejin to a table. "Don't mind them," Hyejin said quietly. "Some species think they're better than others. Especially the Zilithians. They think they're the smartest and strongest in the galaxy." "Do they bother everyone?" Nari asked. "Mostly just humans," Hyejin said. "And anyone they think is inferior, which is pretty much everyone who isn't them." From across the room, Nari could feel the crystal beings still watching her. She tried to focus on her food, but it was hard to eat with them staring. Near the end of dinner, she noticed someone else watching her, a human boy with dark hair and serious eyes. He sat alone at a table near the window, reading something on a tablet. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away. "Who is that?" Nari asked, nodding toward the boy. "That's Do-hyun," Hyejin said. "He's really smart, but he doesn't talk much. He's in advanced physics and engineering. Some people think he's weird because he likes to be alone." Nari looked at Do-hyun again. He seemed different from the other students, quieter, more thoughtful. She wondered what he was reading that was so interesting. As they left the dining hall, the crystal beings were still there. The tall one stepped into their path. "Welcome to the academy," he said with a smile that didn't reach his glowing eyes. "I'm Tae-min. I hope you enjoy your stay with us." There was something about the way he said it that made Nari uncomfortable, like he didn't really mean it. "Thank you," she said quietly. Tae-min looked her up and down, his gaze stopping at her neck where her gills were barely visible. "Interesting modifications," he said. "Very practical." His friends laughed again and Nari felt her face get hot. "Come on," Hyejin said, taking Nari's arm. "We should get back." As they walked away, Nari heard Tae-min say something in his own language. His friends laughed louder. Back in their room, Nari sat by her pool and put her feet in the water. It felt good to let her gills open properly and breathe the way that felt natural to her. "Don't let them get to you," Hyejin said. "Tae-min and his group think they're so important. But there are lots of good people here too," Nari nodded. But she couldn't shake the feeling that her time at the academy was going to be more difficult than she had hoped. Outside their window, the stars looked cold and far away. Nari missed her family. She missed home. She missed being around people who understood her. But she was here now. She had to make the best of it. Tomorrow, classes would start. Tomorrow she would begin to find out if she really belonged in the best school in the galaxy. Nari's first week at the academy was harder than she expected. The classes were difficult, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was feeling like everyone was watching her all the time. In biology class, students stared when she answered questions about underwater life. In physics, they whispered when she solved problems using calculations that worked better in 3 dimensions. She knew things other students didn't know because of how she was made. But that seemed to make them uncomfortable. The only place she felt safe was in her room with Hyejin, or swimming in the pool late at night when no one else was around. On Friday afternoon, Nari was sitting alone in the library when 3 students approached her table. She recognized them from the dining hall. They were Tae-min's friends, but Tae-min wasn't with them. "Hi," said a short alien with gray skin. "You're Nari, right? The new water breather?" Nari nodded carefully. These students had never talked to her before. "I'm Kyul," the gray alien said. "These are my friends Vash and Lorik. We wanted to talk to you about something important." Nari closed her book and waited. "We've been watching you," Kyul said, sitting down across from her. "And we noticed that you seem lonely. That's not good for someone new." "We want to help," added Vash, a tall alien with too many arms. "We know someone who's been asking about you." Nari's heart jumped. "Asking about me?" "Oh yes," Lorik said with a grin that showed sharp teeth. "Someone very important. Someone every student in this academy knows." They looked at each other and smiled. "Gee woo," Kuehl said finally. He's been asking about the new human girl with the special modifications. Nari had heard of Jiwoo. Everyone had. He was the most popular student at the academy. Smart, kind, good-looking, and from one of the richest families on Earth. He was student council president and captain of the gravity ball team. Girls from every species had crushes on him. Jiwoo was asking about me, Nari said, not quite believing it. That's right, Vash said. He thinks your modifications are fascinating. He's never met anyone like you before. He said you must be very brave to come here, Lorik added. Not many people would be confident enough to show their differences so openly. Nari touched her neck self-consciously. She had been trying to hide her gills, not show them openly. He wants to meet you, Kuehl said, but he's shy about approaching you directly. You know how it is with popular people. They have to be careful. Meet me? Nari whispered. We could arrange something, Vash said. Somewhere private where you two could talk without everyone watching. Nari's mind was spinning. Jiwoo wanted to meet her. It seemed impossible, but why would these students lie? Why are you helping me? She asked. We believe in bringing different species together, Lorik said smoothly. The galaxy is changing. The old prejudices need to end. Besides, Kuehl added, we like to help shy people find each other. Jiwoo is too important to make the first move, and you're too new to know how things work here. They spent the next hour telling Nari stories about Jiwoo, how he had helped struggling students with their studies, how he had stood up to bullies, how he was interested in learning about different cultures and species. He's not like other popular students, Vash said. He really cares about people. By the time they left, Nari's head was full of dreams. Maybe she had been wrong about this place. Maybe she could fit in after all. That night she told Hyejin what had happened. Really? Hyejin said, looking surprised. Jiwoo asked about you? That's what they said. Do you think it's possible? Hyejin thought for a moment. I guess anything is possible. Jiwoo is really nice, and he does seem interested in different cultures. What should I do if he wants to meet me? Just be yourself, Hyejin said with a smile. If he likes you, he'll like the real you. Over the next few days, Kuehl and his friends visited Nari regularly. They brought her more messages from Jiwoo. How he had noticed her in the dining hall. How he admired her courage. How he wanted to learn about her underwater abilities. He's planning something special, Kuehl told her on Tuesday. A proper way to ask you to meet him. What kind of special? Nari asked. You'll see. Jiwoo likes to do things the right way. He wants to make a good impression. Nari started paying more attention to her appearance. She let her gills show a little more, thinking that if Jiwoo found them interesting, maybe she shouldn't hide them. She practiced what she would say when they finally met. Meanwhile, across the academy, Do-hyun was working late in the hydroponics lab. He often came here when he needed quiet time to think. The plants didn't talk or stare or judge. They just grew. He was checking the water systems when he heard voices outside the lab. The door was slightly open and he could see into the corridor. Taemin was talking to Kuehl and the others. How is our little project going? Taemin asked in his crystalline voice. Perfect, Kuehl said with a nasty laugh. The fish girl believes every word. She thinks Jiwoo is interested in her. Excellent. And the timing? We told her to be at the Grand Assembly Hall next Friday at sunset. We said Jiwoo would meet her there with a formal invitation to spend time together. Taemin's laugh sounded like breaking glass. The whole school will be there for the evening meal preparation. Everyone will see her waiting alone like a fool. The best part, Vash added, is that we told her Jiwoo likes her modifications. She's been showing her gills more. She'll look even more freakish when everyone sees her. Do-hyun felt sick. He had heard rumors about Taemin's cruelty, but this was worse than he had imagined. They were setting up an innocent girl for public humiliation. Make sure word spreads about her date with Jiwoo, Taemin continued. I want every student in the academy to know that the water breather thinks she has a chance with the most popular human boy in school. Already done, Lorik said. By Friday, everyone will know to be at the assembly hall. Good. It's time these inferior species learned their place. Humans especially need to understand that their genetic experiments don't make them special. Do-hyun watched them walk away, his hands shaking with anger. He had to do something, but what? If he confronted Taemin, he would just become the next target. If he told Nari directly, she might not believe him. He thought about telling a teacher, but Taemin's family was important. The Zilithians provided advanced technology to the academy. No one would punish Taemin for a harmless prank. Do-hyun had always avoided getting involved in other people's problems. It was safer to stay quiet and invisible, but watching Nari these past weeks, seeing how hard she was trying to fit in, he couldn't just let this happen. He decided to watch and wait. Maybe he could find a way to help without putting himself in danger. Friday arrived too quickly. Nari spent the whole day nervous and excited. She had chosen her best outfit and spent extra time fixing her hair. She had even asked Hyejin to help her practice conversation topics. "I still can't believe Jiwoo wants to meet you like this," Hyejin said as they got ready. "It seems so formal and public." "Maybe that's how important people do things," Nari said. "Maybe he wants everyone to see that he's not ashamed to be interested in someone like me." Hyejin looked worried, but she didn't say anything more. As sunset approached, Nari made her way to the Grand Assembly Hall. Her heart was beating so fast she thought everyone could hear it. This was really happening. Jiwoo wanted to meet her. The Grand Assembly Hall was huge with tall windows that looked out at the stars. During the day it was used for major announcements and ceremonies. In the evening it connected to the dining areas where students gathered for the meal. Nari arrived early and found a spot near the center of the hall. She wanted to be easy to find. She checked her reflection in the window and practiced smiling. Slowly, other students began to appear. At first, just a few walking through on their way to dinner. Then more and more, until there were dozens of beings watching her from the edges of the hall. Nari started to feel uncomfortable. Why were so many people here? And why were they all staring at her? She checked the time. Jiwoo was late, more students arrived. Nari could hear them whispering and pointing at her. Some were taking pictures with their devices. Others were laughing behind their hands. Her stomach started to hurt. Something was wrong. Then she saw Taemin entering the hall with Kyul, Vash, and Lorik. They were smiling, but not in a nice way. And behind them, looking confused and surprised, was Jiwoo himself. Nari's blood turned cold. Jiwoo looked around the crowded hall, saw her standing there in her best clothes, and his face showed complete confusion. He had no idea why she was there. He had never asked to meet her. She had been tricked. Nari stood frozen in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall as more students poured in. The whispers got louder. The pointing got more obvious. She could hear her heart beating in her ears like thunder. Jiwoo walked into the hall looking completely lost. His eyes found Nari and his face showed nothing but confusion. He had never seen her dressed up before. He had no idea why she was standing there waiting for him. Well, Taemin said loudly, his crystal voice carrying across the hall. "Look what we have here." The crowd grew quiet. Everyone turned to listen. Taemin walked toward Nari with his friends following behind him. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "The water breather is all dressed up," Taemin announced. "How interesting. I wonder what she's waiting for." Nari wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Students from dozens of different species surrounded her now. She could see beings she had never seen before, all watching her like she was some kind of show. "Perhaps," Taemin continued, moving closer, "she's waiting for someone special, someone important." Kyul stepped forward with a fake innocent expression. "Oh yes, I think she's waiting for Jiwoo." "Isn't that right, Nari?" The crowd murmured with interest. Some students laughed. Nari felt her face burning with shame. "Jiwoo?" Taemin said, pretending to be surprised. "The most popular student in the academy? But why would he want to meet with a genetic experiment? Maybe she thinks her fish parts make her special," Vash added loudly. "Maybe she thinks someone like Jiwoo could be interested in a freak," Lorik said with a cruel smile. The laughter got louder. Nari could see students holding up their devices to record everything. This humiliation would be saved forever. Jiwoo pushed through the crowd, his face angry and confused. "What's going on here? Why is everyone crowding around?" "Oh, Jiwoo," Taemin said with fake excitement. "Perfect timing. Your admirer is here waiting for you." "My what?" Jiwoo looked at Nari, then at Taemin, then back at Nari. "Nari here believes you asked to meet her," Taemin explained loudly. "She thinks you're interested in her because of her special modifications." "Isn't that sweet?" The crowd laughed harder. Someone shouted. She thought Jiwoo liked her gills. Jiwoo's expression changed from confusion to understanding to anger. "You told her I wanted to meet her? We may have mentioned that you found her." "Interesting," Kyul said with a grin. "We thought you two had so much in common," Vash added, "both being human and all." "Of course," Taemin said, his voice getting sharper. We didn't think you would actually be interested in damaged goods. But she believed it so easily. Nari felt like she was drowning, but not in water. She was drowning in shame and laughter and cruel stares. Her gills opened and closed rapidly as she tried to breathe. "Look at her," someone called out. "She's opening her fish gills." Does she think she's underwater? Maybe she's trying to swim away. The laughter became a roar. Nari could barely see through her tears. "This is what happens," Timon announced to the crowd. "When inferior species try to reach above their station, when genetic experiments think they can mix with pure beings." She actually thought Jiwoo would want her, Lorik said. "A fish girl with a human face. Maybe she can find a nice aquarian to date," Vash suggested. "Someone with tentacles might find her attractive." The crowd was in full laugh mode now. Even some students who looked uncomfortable were smiling. It was easier to laugh than to stand up to the crowd. Nari looked around desperately for a way to escape, but she was surrounded. Every direction she turned, she saw faces laughing at her. Aliens and humans alike seemed to find her pain entertaining. Then from the back of the crowd, a voice cut through the noise. "That's enough." Everyone turned to see who had spoken. Do-hyun pushed through the mass of students, his face red with anger. "I said that's enough," he repeated louder this time. The laughter died down. Students looked confused. Do-hyun never spoke up in groups. He never drew attention to himself. "This isn't funny," Do-hyun said, walking toward the center where Nari stood. "This is cruel and stupid." Taemin looked amused. "Oh look, the quiet human boy has something to say. How unexpected." "You planned this," Do-hyun said, pointing at Taemin. "I heard you talking about it. You told her Jiwoo wanted to meet her just so you could humiliate her in front of everyone." Some of the crowd started to murmur. "They hadn't known it was a planned trick, so what if we did?" Taemin said with a shrug. "She was stupid enough to believe it. Someone needed to teach her where she belongs." "Where she belongs?" Do-hyun's voice got louder. "She belongs here just like everyone else. She earned her place at this academy." "She's a genetic freak," Taemin said coldly. "An experiment. She's not even fully human anymore." "And you're a bully," Do-hyun shot back. "You pick on anyone you think is weaker than you, but the only weak one here is you." The crowd gasped. No one talked to Taemin like that. Taemin's crystal face darkened. "What did you say to me, little human?" "You heard me," Do-hyun said, stepping closer to Nari. "You're weak. You have to hurt others to feel strong. That's what weak people do." "I could destroy you with one hand," Taemin snarled. "Maybe," Do-hyun said. "But everyone here would know that you had to use violence because you couldn't win with words. Just like everyone here knows that you had to trick an innocent girl because you're too pathetic to face someone who might fight back." The murmurs in the crowd were getting louder. Some students were nodding. They had never thought about it that way before. "Besides," Do-hyun continued, "what does it say about you that you're so threatened by one girl that you had to plan an elaborate trick to embarrass her? Are you really that scared of her?" "Scared?" Taemin laughed, but it sounded forced. "I'm not scared of anything." "Then why do you need your friends to help you bully one person?" Do-hyun asked. "Why do you need a crowd to watch? If you're so superior, why don't you face her alone?" Before Taemin could answer, another voice joined the conversation. "Because he's a coward." Everyone turned to see Jiwoo pushing through the crowd. His face was dark with anger, but not at Nari. At Taemin. "You used my name to hurt someone," Jiwoo said, his voice carrying clearly across the hall. "You made her think I was interested in her just so you could embarrass her." "It was just a joke," Kyul said quickly. "No," Jiwoo said firmly. "A joke is something everyone can laugh at together. This was cruelty. This was using my reputation to hurt an innocent person." He turned to look at Nari, who was still standing in the center of the circle, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," Jiwoo said to her. "I'm sorry they used me to hurt you. I'm sorry I didn't know what they were planning." Then he turned back to Taemin and his friends, and "I'm sorry that students like you make this academy a worse place for everyone else." "You can't be serious," Taemin said. "You're defending her? She's not even your species anymore." "She's more human than you'll ever be," Jiwoo said. "And she has more courage in her little finger than you have in your whole crystal body." "How can you say that?" Vash protested. "Look at her. She's a freak." "I am looking at her," Jiwoo said calmly. "I see someone who was brave enough to come to a new school where she didn't know anyone. Someone who was kind enough to believe that others might want to be her friend. Someone who stood here and took your cruelty without fighting back or running away. He paused and looked around at the crowd. What I see when I look at all of you is a bunch of cowards who think it's fun to watch someone get hurt. What I see when I look at Taimin is someone so insecure that he has to tear others down to feel good about himself. The hall was completely quiet now. Students looked ashamed. Some were looking at their feet. Nari, Jiwoo said gently, you deserve better than this. You deserve better than all of us. But when he looked for her, she was gone. While everyone had been arguing, Nari had slipped away through the crowd. She was running through the corridors now, her dress torn from pushing past students, her carefully fixed hair falling loose around her face. She could hear her own sobs echoing off the walls. She had never felt so stupid, so embarrassed, so alone. Behind her in the grand assembly hall, the crowd was slowly breaking up. Students walked away quietly, many of them feeling bad about what they had done. Do-hyun and Ji-woo stood together in the center of the emptying hall. We have to find her, Ji-woo said. She's probably at her room, Do-hyun replied. No, Ji-woo said, thinking. She won't want to see anyone right now. She'll go somewhere private, Do-hyun nodded. He understood the need to hide when the world felt too cruel. They left the hall together, two boys who had never spoken before, united in their need to help someone who had been hurt by the cruelty of others. Somewhere in the academy, Nari was crying alone, believing that she would never belong anywhere. Nari didn't go to her room. She didn't go to the aquatic wing at all. Instead, she found herself in the deepest part of the station, where the old maintenance tunnels connected to the main water recycling systems. It was dark and quiet here. The only sounds were the gentle movement of water through pipes and the soft hum of machinery. She sat on a metal platform above a large pool of clean water and let herself cry. She felt so stupid. How could she have believed that someone like Ji-woo would be interested in her? How could she have trusted Taemin's friends? She should have known it was too good to be true. The worst part wasn't even the humiliation. The worst part was that for a few days she had felt hopeful. She had thought maybe she could fit in here. Maybe she could make friends and be accepted. Now she knew the truth. She was a freak, a genetic experiment, something to be laughed at. Nari stayed in the tunnels for hours. She heard her communicator beeping with messages, but she ignored it. She didn't want to talk to anyone. Finally, when she was too tired to cry anymore, she made her way back to her room. It was very late. The corridors were empty. Hee-jin was waiting for her, sitting on her bed with a worried expression. Nari, I've been so worried. I heard what happened. Are you okay? Nari just shook her head and went to the bathroom to wash her face. When she came out, Hee-jin was still there. I'm sorry, Hee-jin said quietly. I should have warned you. I should have known something was wrong when they said Ji-woo wanted to meet you so publicly. It's not your fault, Nari said. Her voice sounded flat and tired. I was stupid. No, you weren't. You were hopeful. There's nothing wrong with hope. Nari changed into her sleeping clothes and got into bed. She wanted this day to be over. What are you going to do now? Hee-jin asked. I don't know. Maybe transfer to a different school. Maybe go home. You can't let them win, Hee-jin said. If you leave, they'll just do this to someone else. But Nari was already asleep, exhausted from crying and shame. The next morning was Saturday. Nari stayed in her room, hiding under her blankets. Hee-jin brought her food from the dining hall and told her that everyone was talking about what had happened. Most people feel bad about it, Hee-jin said. They know it was wrong. But they still laughed, Nari replied. People do stupid things when they're in groups. It doesn't mean they're bad people. Nari didn't want to hear about it. She just wanted to disappear. On Sunday, she finally left her room to go swimming in the main aquatic center. It was early, so she thought no one would be there. She was wrong. Do-hyun was sitting by the edge of the large pool reading a book. When he saw her, he looked up. Hi, he said quietly. Nari almost turned around and left. But something about his expression stopped her. He didn't look sorry for her. He just looked normal. Hi, she said back. I come here sometimes to think, Do-hyun explained. The water sounds help me concentrate. Nari nodded and got into the pool. The water felt good on her skin. She dove down deep and let herself float for a while, breathing through her gills. When she came back up, Do-hyun was still there. Thank you, she said, for standing up for me. I should have done it sooner, he replied. I knew what they were planning. You knew? I heard them talking about it. I should have warned you, but I didn't know how. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Do-hyun said something that surprised her. You should challenge him. What? Taemin. You should challenge him to a combat trial. Nori stared at him. Are you crazy? He would destroy me. Maybe, or maybe not. Do-hyun closed his book and looked at her seriously. Do you know what a combat trial is? It's an old tradition for settling disputes, but humans never win against Zilithians. They're too strong and too fast. But a combat trial isn't just about strength, Do-hyun said. It's about three things: physical ability, mental skill, and character. You don't have to be the strongest to win. Why would I want to fight him? I just want this to be over. Because if you challenge him, you control the situation. Right now, he controls everything. He decided when to humiliate you, how to do it, who would watch. But if you challenge him, you make the rules. Nari thought about this. Even if I could win, which I can't, why would he accept? He has nothing to gain. He has to accept, Do-hyun explained. It's the law of the combat trial. If someone challenges you for a matter of honor, you have to accept or be considered a coward by your own people. And you think this is a matter of honor? He used deception to publicly humiliate you. He questioned your right to be here. If that's not a matter of honor, I don't know what is. Nari got out of the pool and sat next to Do-hyun. Let's say I was crazy enough to do this. How would a combat trial work? The Academy's computer system would design 3 challenges based on the nature of the dispute. Usually 1 physical contest, 1 mental challenge, and 1 test of character. And you think I could win? Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. I think you're stronger than you know. I think you're smarter than Taemin gives you credit for. And I know you have more character than he does. That's not enough. Maybe not. But it's better than hiding in your room while he tells everyone that humans are weak. Nari considered this. The idea was terrifying, but also exciting. Instead of being the victim, she could fight back. If I did this, she said slowly, would you help me? Yes, why? You barely know me. Do-hyun looked out at the water. Because someone needs to stand up to bullies. Because what he did was wrong. And because I think you're braver than you believe. That afternoon, Nari made her decision. She walked into the main administrative office and requested to speak with the Dean of Students. Dean Morrison was a kind woman who had been at the Academy for 20 years. She had seen conflicts between species before, but rarely did students request combat trials. Are you sure about this, Nari? Dean Morrison asked. Combat trials are serious matters. They're not something you do because you're angry. I'm not angry, Nari said and realized it was true. I'm determined. Determined to do what? To prove that humans aren't weak. To prove that being different doesn't make you inferior. To prove that bullies shouldn't be allowed to hurt people just because they can. Dean Morrison studied her for a long moment. You understand that if you lose, it could make things worse for you? Things are already bad. At least this way, I'm fighting back. And if you win, then maybe other students won't be afraid to stand up for themselves. Dean Morrison nodded slowly. Very well. I'll send the formal challenge to Taemin. He has 24 hours to respond. Word of the challenge spread through the Academy like wildfire. Students from every species talked about nothing else. A human challenging a Zilithian to single combat. It was unheard of. Most students thought Nari had lost her mind. Zilithians were physically superior to humans in almost every way. They were stronger, faster, and their crystal bodies were nearly indestructible. But some students, especially those who had been bullied by Taemin's group, began to hope. Maybe someone could finally stand up to him. Taemin received the formal challenge during dinner on Monday. When the Academy's computer announced it publicly, the entire dining hall went silent. Nari of the human species formally challenges Taemin of the Zilithian species to a combat trial for matters of honor. The computer announced. The challenge involves accusations of deception, public humiliation, and questioning of species equality. All eyes turned to Taemin's table. His friends looked shocked. Taemin himself looked furious. This is ridiculous, he said loudly. I won't waste my time fighting a genetic experiment. But Kuhl leaned over and whispered something in his ear. Taemin's expression changed. However, Taemin continued, I accept the challenge. It will be amusing to teach this inferior creature a final lesson. The dining hall erupted in excited conversation. The combat trial was really going to happen. Nari felt her stomach drop, but she kept her expression calm. There was no turning back now. Over the next week, the academy buzzed with preparation. Combat trials were rare and always drew huge crowds. Students placed bets on the outcome. Teachers discussed the implications. Even the academy's governing board took notice. Do-hyun became Nari's official trainer and advisor. Every morning before classes, they met in the aquatic center to work on strategy. The physical challenge will probably be some kind of fighting, Do-hyun explained. Zilithians are strong, but they're also heavy. You're faster and more flexible. He's still stronger than me. But you can breathe underwater and he can't if you can choose the environment. Pick something with water. They also worked on mental exercises. Do-hyun brought complex puzzles and strategic games. Nari was surprised to find that she was good at thinking in 3 dimensions and seeing patterns that weren't obvious. Zilithians think in straight lines, Do-hyun said. They're logical but not creative. You think like water. You can flow around obstacles. The hardest part was preparing for the character challenge. These tests were unpredictable and designed to reveal someone's true nature. Just be yourself, Do-hyun advised. You have good instincts about right and wrong. As the day of the trial approached, Nari received unexpected support. Hyejin organized other students to help with her training. Even some aliens who had never spoken to her before offered advice and encouragement. Most surprising was when Jiwoo approached her. I want to help, he said simply. The grand arena was packed. Students from every corner of the galaxy had come to watch the combat trial. The circular arena could hold 5,000 beings, and every seat was full. Nari had never seen so many different species in one place. There were crystalline beings like Taimin, floating energy creatures, furry quadrupeds, tall blue-skinned humanoids, and dozens of others she couldn't identify, and scattered throughout were humans watching one of their own face impossible odds. Remember, Do-hyun said quietly as they stood in the preparation area, this isn't about winning or losing. This is about showing everyone who you really are. Nari nodded, but her hands were shaking. In a few minutes, she would face Taimin in front of everyone who had laughed at her. The humiliation could be even worse than before. The computer has chosen the 3 challenges, Dean Morrison announced. Physical combat in a variable environment, strategic problem-solving under pressure, and moral decision-making. Taemin stood across the arena with his supporters. He looked confident and relaxed. His crystal body caught the light and sparkled like a living diamond. He was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. First challenge, physical combat, the arena's computer announced. Environment, aquatic arena with multiple depth levels. Nari felt a surge of hope. Water, the one environment where her modifications gave her an advantage. The arena floor opened to reveal a complex water system. There were shallow areas, deep pools, underwater tunnels, and floating platforms. It looked like an elaborate 3-dimensional maze filled with water. Contestants have 5 minutes to familiarize themselves with the environment, the computer said. Combat begins when both contestants signal readiness. Nari dove into the water immediately. It felt like coming home. Her gills opened and she could breathe easily underwater. Her webbed fingers and toes helped her move gracefully through the liquid space. She explored quickly, finding the deepest areas and the narrowest passages. This environment was perfect for her. Taemin moved more carefully around the edges. His crystal body was heavy and he couldn't swim well. But he was still incredibly strong, and his reach was longer than hers. Combat begins now, the computer announced. Taemin immediately tried to stay on the floating platforms, where his strength would be most useful. But Nari had a different strategy. She dove deep and swam underneath the platforms. When Taimin couldn't see her, she surfaced behind him and struck quickly before disappearing back into the water. Stay and fight, coward, Taimin shouted. But Nari was already gone. This wasn't the kind of combat the audience expected. Instead of 2 fighters standing and exchanging blows, it was like watching a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Nari used the water like it was her ally. She could hold her breath for much longer than Taemin, and she could move silently through the liquid. Every time he thought he had her cornered, she would slip away through an underwater passage. She's not fighting, someone in the crowd complained. She's just running away. But Do-hyun understood what Nari was doing. She was wearing Taemin down. Every time he tried to follow her into the water, he had to hold his breath and move clumsily. Every time she struck and disappeared, he got more frustrated and tired. After 20 minutes, Taemin was breathing heavily and making mistakes. He lunged at Nari when she surfaced near a platform. But she ducked underwater and he fell into the deep pool. His crystal body sank quickly. Nari could have left him there to struggle, but instead she helped him back to a platform where he could breathe. "Why did you help me?" he gasped. "Because this is combat, not murder," Nari replied. The crowd murmured with approval. Even Taemin's supporters looked impressed. "First challenge goes to Nari," the computer announced. "Superior use of environment and demonstration of honor in combat." Taemin looked shocked. He had never lost a physical challenge before. Second challenge, strategic problem solving, the computer continued. Contestants must solve a complex space navigation problem while under time pressure and distraction. 2 identical control stations rose from the arena floor. Each had multiple screens, control panels, and communication devices. Scenario: a colony ship with 5,000 passengers is trapped in an asteroid field. Long-range sensors show an approaching solar storm that will arrive in 1 hour. You must navigate the ship to safety while dealing with system failures and competing priorities. Nari and Taemin took their positions at the control stations. The screen showed a 3-dimensional map of space with thousands of asteroids, several possible escape routes, and system status displays. "Begin," the computer said. Immediately, alarms started blaring. The screen showed multiple problems: engine failure, life support issues, navigation system errors, and panicked communications from passengers. Taemin attacked the problem like a crystal formation grows, systematically and logically. He prioritized the most critical systems first and worked through each problem in order. But Nari approached it differently. She looked at the whole situation like water flowing around obstacles. Instead of trying to fix everything, she found creative ways to work around the problems. When the main engines failed, Taemin spent precious time trying to repair them. Nari used the ship's smaller maneuvering thrusters in a complex pattern to create forward momentum. When the navigation system went down, Taemin attempted to restore it completely. Nari used the emergency backup systems and manual calculations to plot a course. Most importantly, when passengers started panicking and flooding the communications with demands for information, Taemin ignored them to focus on technical problems. Nari took time to send calm, honest updates that kept the passengers from making things worse. 15 minutes remaining, the computer announced. Taemin was still working on restoring main systems. His route through the asteroid field was technically perfect, but it required systems that weren't working properly. Nari's route was more creative. It used the asteroid field's gravity to help propel the ship, required only the systems that were still working, and even positioned the ship so that some asteroids would protect it from the solar storm. 5 minutes remaining. Taemin finally got his main engines working, but he was running out of time to navigate the complex route he had planned. Nari was already guiding her ship towards safety, using a path that looked impossible, but actually worked perfectly. "Time up," the computer announced. Results: Taemin's solution would have saved the ship but left 40% of passengers injured due to high-stress maneuvers. Nari's solution saves the ship with 95% passenger safety and arrives at the destination with fuel to spare. Second challenge goes to Nari. The crowd was amazed. Not only had a human beaten a Zilithian in physical combat, she had outsmarted him too. Taemin looked confused and angry. This wasn't supposed to happen. Zilithians were superior. The computer must be malfunctioning. Final challenge, moral decision-making, the computer announced. Contestants will face ethical scenarios that test character and values. The arena screens showed a new scenario. You are the leader of a space station with limited resources. A transport ship arrives with refugees from a war zone. They have children who are sick and need medical care, but helping them will use up supplies that your own people need. What do you do? Taemin answered first. I protect my own people. The refugees are not my responsibility. I would send them to find help elsewhere. Nari thought carefully before answering. I would share our resources and send out emergency calls for additional supplies. We can't save ourselves by letting children die when we have the power to help them. Second scenario, you discover that a popular student has been cheating on exams. Exposing them will ruin their future, but not exposing them is unfair to honest students. What do you do? Taemin, I would use this information to my advantage. Knowledge is power and the cheater would owe me favors. Nari, I would talk to the student privately first and encourage them to confess. If they refused, I would report it to the teachers. Fairness is more important than protecting one person's reputation. Final scenario. You have the power to eliminate one thing from the galaxy that you consider harmful. What would you choose and why? Taemin. I would eliminate genetic modification of intelligent species. It creates impure beings that disturb the natural order and confuse the hierarchy of species. The crowd gasped. He was talking about Nari directly. Nari was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. I would eliminate the belief that some people are worth more than others based on how they were born. Every being in this galaxy has value, whether they're natural, modified, artificial, or something we haven't discovered yet. Moral decision-making challenge goes to Nari, the computer announced. All 3 challenges won by the human contestant. The arena erupted in cheers. Students from dozens of species were on their feet, applauding not just Nari's victory but what it represented. But Nari wasn't finished. She walked across the arena to where Taemin stood in shock. The crowd grew quiet, waiting to see what she would do. Taemin, she said loud enough for everyone to hear, I forgive you. What? Taemin's crystal voice cracked. I forgive you for the prank. I forgive you for trying to humiliate me. I forgive you for believing that I was worth less than you. I don't need your forgiveness, Taemin said angrily.